This is Michael J. Coyle with Metal Temple. I'm here with Steffen. Is it pronounced Kummerer or
Kummerer?
I can never pronounce it correctly. That's the problem. So first off, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. It's so far a pretty decent day with a lot of interviews and great feedback for our new album, and overall the vibes are good. We're getting tons of offers to do tours on festival shows, single shows, mini tours all over the world, and I'm very happy that we are finally talking about the new album after 5 years.
I know. I mean, honestly, it's been quite a while since the last record came out. I mean, this is a big moment for a lot of Obscura fans to finally being able to listen to new material. And I gotta say, like I said before, it is a fantastic record. It's a really big step from the previous release, and it goes to show that as well.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to hear that, since it has been a long time.
It has,
but
yeah.
We took time to change a couple of things in terms of production, how to write songs, and I have a very, very strict and straightforward vision how this band is working, and there had been some changes being necessary, especially in the production, and I'm super happy how this album turned out in the end. It's exactly what we wanted to do.
And you've also got a new guitarist, don't you?
Sorry?
You've also got a newish guitarist, don't you?
Newish guitar? I
did some research. You've got a new guitarist in the band that came in 2015.
Our guitarist, yeah. He's called Rafael Trujillo. He's German. Mm-hmm. No, actually, he's an Austrian living in Germany.
Okay.
But he is studying in the Netherlands. He's a graduated MGE student from the Munich Guitar Center, Munich Guitar Institute, and now he's studying jazz guitar at the Amsterdam Conservatory. So he's absolutely shredder and very nice, funny person, and we're about to start rehearsing for the new tours, and seems to be very, very easy.
That's fantastic. So on February 5th is when the new Obscura release, Akroasis, will be released. What was the writing process like for this record compared to the band's previous release, Omnivium?
Well, Omnivium was basically written only on sheet music. We simply put all of our ideas into a program and sent each other the files, basically MIDI files. Mm-hmm. And this was pretty easy to compose, everything, but in the studio we figured that some minor things we had to change. For example, some arrangements, some chords sounded different than when you're playing it with a real guitar, kind of obvious, but we expected it a little bit different. And also some of the music sounded a bit constructed from my point of view. So I don't want to say it's bad or anything. I'm proud for every album, but also when you finish an album, looking back, there are always little points you see and hear you would like to change in the future. And for me, it was how to write the songs and how to produce the album. And in terms of writing, we went back around 10 years. And what we did is simply making demos prior to that. So to combine both worlds, we wrote the songs first on the guitar or bass, and put it on Cubase sessions, made rough demos, wrote everything on sheet music, and put the whole sessions on our server, and shared this with all the other members. And from there on, we started to arrange everything, and then put everything into the same program again. It was Guitar Pro. Very, very nice and easy program to handle. I mean, you're a guitarist yourself, so I guess
I've heard of it, yeah.
with that. And with all of this, we made a complete proper pre-production and went to the studio. So this helped us extremely well to arrange the album a little bit more fluently and keep all of the creative process out of the studio. So within the studio time, we have been focusing only on the performance, and this helped a lot.
That's incredible. So besides this, I mean, musically for this record, did you and the rest of the band do anything different this time around for this release? In terms of, did you do anything to make the sound? Well, I'm trying to think now. Actually, I'm trying to think. For this record, was there anything that you did personally, musically, different compared to Omnivium?
In terms of sound, I would say the mixing and production was completely different. Omnivium was a pretty straight-in-your-face death metal record.
Oh, yes.
Of course, kind of progressive, shreddy parts, but it was absolutely in your face. And I wanted to change the overall sound a little bit. Within the last 10 years, I learned a lot in terms of engineering.
All right.
And especially psychoacoustics and this department. So I wanted to go a more analog way. So what we did is using only analog and especially only our live equipment for producing this album. So you hear exactly the guitar I've been recording Cosmogenesis with, and I'm using since, I don't know, the last years, the 7th string and also the 6th string for Cosmogenesis. And I used the live amp. This is exactly the amp we worked for Omnivium with. This is my setup, and this is the guitar sound you hear. It's only tube amplifiers, no digital stuff, only tubes. And the same goes for the bass. We used a very old, great sounding Ampeg tube amplifier.
Oh, wow.
And for the drums, we moved to a different studio. Just because in a different studio they had Dream Sound Studios from Munich. They have a very huge recording room where we put the drums in the center, and I have a very special view on how to use room acoustics within the mix just to get more dynamics within. You don't need that for the blast beats or anything. There you don't need actually barely need overhead micros, but when there's a silent part, for example, those acoustic interludes like bass solos, bass leads, where everything is going a little bit down, not that loud, not that harsh, then the sun is shining. Then you have way more options within the mix, and from there on we started to get even beyond this analog idea. I had a certain late 90s rock production in mind, something like Porcupine Tree or Soundgarden did in the past. So it's not in your face, it's more like a three-dimensional mix. So we didn't pan guitars left and right. That's what is kind of common, but we also used the drums and put it sometimes back and forward. We worked with delay lines for each instrument. And if you listen to the album with headphones, you can point out where each musician is staying. So this is very, very much different from the previous album, and from my perspective, this is a real high-end production, and I'm very happy with it.
You know, you talk about the headphones. I actually noticed that myself, because on my laptop, for some reason, I have a weird speaker system. Whenever I have no headphones on it, it just fades off, and then when I have to listen to all my promos via headphones nowadays, and I actually noticed that. I mean, really, with the headphones on, you can get you can get more clarity with the sound, and everything about Akroasis is really everything you would want in an Obscura record. It has everything I think the fans will really enjoy, because it has something that I personally feel is a fantastic step in the legacy of this fantastic band, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. This is the biggest compliment I can get.
Well, I've been a fan since I first saw you guys in 2013, and honestly, when I first saw you guys perform live, I actually thought that I was actually blown away by how tight the band was, and then I started listening to the records, but I did notice a lot of differences from compared to Omnivium to now, and really the whole analog idea really gives the sound a lot more to work with, I think.
Yeah, it's a complete different approach from my perspective. I mean, it's easier simply to work digital. You can also make a good album with that, but this is not what we wanted to have. I'm more into this natural sounding modus right now. Perhaps I'm. That's why I'm getting old.
No one's getting old. We're just drinking harder and losing time in the day to try and wake up. Well, at least that's me. I tend to drink all night and sleep all day. But hey, that's the life of a programming student.
Okay. So it's not the first time I hear that.
It won't be the last. Besides Obscura, you're also known for being one of the guitarists and vocalists for Death DTA. What has it been like for you singing and playing these legendary songs live, and would you say that doing these shows have inspired you more as a musician?
Ooh, that's a good question.
One I've been working on for a bit.
Well, I have to admit, it's first of all, I was invited for the very first Death DTA tour, and this came completely out of the blue. Nobody said, okay, this and this is happening. I just got the mail, hey, by the way, we're doing this 5-concert-long tour with all the old Death members. Do you want to do this? And the first reaction was, I thought this is a bad joke, something. But playing those gigs and shows with Death DTA was actually the best thing I did in a very long time. Since we toured for about 4 years. When we released Cosmogenesis via Relapse Records back then, that was the first album that has been released through a proper record label. We got pushed, they helped us a lot, also with US tours and everything, and the whole thing got way more professional and let's say bigger. And we toured and toured and toured, then we recorded the second album. We have been on tour for another 2 years, and at that point, around 2013, 2012, 2013, we have been a little bit burned out, so to say, blown as a band, since we did too much in that time. But when I entered this Death DTA tour family, it's a real family. They always work with exactly the same crew, the same tour manager, the same. Simply as a family. I mean, every band has the same people they work with usually, and so it was there. And I was the only non-American musician or a non-American person in the whole group, and they accepted me within 5 minutes as one of their own, and this was seriously something special. Those have been the people I've been looking up as a teenager, and why I picked up a guitar in the end, and playing with them and see that all of them are simply cool characters. All of them are with both feet on the ground. They have a reputation. Like, I mean, everybody knows Steve DiGiorgio, Gene Hoglan, Sean Reiner, Paul Masvidal, and so on. Everybody knows them, and still they're with both feet on the ground. They treat everybody with respect and easy. And playing with them, first of all, I learned a lot about a band that is full of known musicians. So it's simply a bigger crowd every night than with Obscura it was. So, but on the other hand, I must admit I had some times where I simply lost the joy of the instrument, playing guitar, and playing with Death in the end. They gave me back the joy of playing music again. They helped me getting out of this little abyss I've been laying in after doing all of those tours with Obscura, and we haven't been on that level to make a living out of it. And then sometimes you ask yourself, why are you doing that? And then Steve DiGiorgio became a very, very close friend, very close. We are in touch like every 2 weeks or so.
That's awesome.
And they somehow made it happen, and I think they have a very huge impact on Akroasis and how this band is developing into. And also this analog approach somehow I really like. I learned so much from, those kind of dinosaurs. I don't want to say it, but this is really cool, and I really enjoy being around with those guys, just hanging out, playing songs, having a good time, traveling. This is fantastic, and I'm absolutely grateful that first of all they ask me, and second that they still invite me every time.
That's absolutely incredible. I mean, I've seen you perform with Death DTA twice now in Manchester. The last time was, I believe it was the 20th anniversary of Symbolic at the Manchester Academy. And I find it incredible how well you blend with these incredible musicians. It's like you just came on stage. I didn't even expect you to actually come on stage. I mean, I'm thinking, did I miss Obscura? I'm like, what? And I was at the front for the whole thing, and I was just blown away because honestly, as a fan, watching you play is fantastic because honestly, it's amazing to see guitarists like yourself with this capacity of playability and skill and technique to be blending with who all the very members of the band who helped to form a subgenre of metal that to this day has grown to become one of the most important in all of metal. I mean, I feel death metal truly is a very important part of the whole tree because I always found that with this kind of music, it gave way to a lot of progression in skill, and I think that Chuck really portrayed that perfectly, showing that progression is the key stage in death metal, and that it's not just about gore and being the most extreme band ever. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that's how I perceive Chuck Schuldiner. The guy was the godfather of progression, but not just death.
Well, I just can't sign that right away.
No, but it's still incredible to see it, isn't it? Like these members still wanting to give the younger generation a taste of what death was about. And in 2013, when I first saw it, I remember seeing those two screens either side of the stage. It was badass.
Yeah, well, I have been in the exact same situation as you are. So
it was mind blowing. It really was. So, as a young musician, what made you want to pick up a guitar and create the music that is Obscura? Besides Death, of course. I mean, what were the main influences that made you want to construct your own songs, which now has led up to creating this band as Obscura?
Well, I picked up my first guitar in March. I don't know the year, but I was 16. And a couple of months later, we together founded Obscura, back then under the banner of Limitation, which turned into Obscura. But the main influences for all of us has been, on the one hand, this old-fashioned early death metal or progressive tech death. I don't want to name it tech death, but this scene like Death, of course. Via Death, I went to Cynic through the Human lineup, and Atheist, Pestilence, Nocturnus, all of those weird death metal bands who included influences from other genres. That was something I was really, really inspired with. But on the other hand, two of the guys in the band, but also most of my friends over here, they are very, very deep into the black metal scene. And for me, also bands like Dissection or Emperor have been a big impact in terms of, the vibe and also in terms of riffing. So looking back, I think that have been the biggest influences.
Well, you mentioned the whole black metal thing. It's actually really big over here as well. I mean, in the last couple of years, the black metal scene has actually grown quite larger over here. So it's really incredible because looking at both death metal and black metal, this is a side note here. It seems that there's a lot more attention being focused on the older bands. You know what I mean, like Atheist, and it's really cool to see these bands returning as well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When I was a kid, it was actually like, will I ever get to see these bands live? I'm not sure which band is left that didn't do a reunion yet. That's a good question. That's a very, very good question, isn't it? Just gotta wait and see, eh?
I don't know. I don't remember anyone. I guess everybody came back. Atheist, Pestilence. There's not a reunion for Death, but Death TTA is something like a tribute and they play the music. So let's count that. What else? Emperor came back.
Repulsion
came back.
are doing a tour as well.
Sorry?
Repulsion are doing a tour as well. Gorguts as well.
Yeah, there you go. Like, all of them somehow came back. And with most of them we had the pleasure to share the stage with. I remember that was one of the best moments ever. Just a side note. We did a tour in 2010, I guess. It was a festival tour in summer together with Atheist. And yeah, it was 2010. And we met at the Brutal Assault Festival in Czech Republic. And we played our show, and the next day I was going down from my hotel room to the lobby, opened the door, and there was Cynic, there was Sadus, Steve DiGiorgio, and there was Atheist, and Pestilence. All of them at one place, and they say, "Hey, you're the guy from Obscura, how are you doing?" Blah. You know the way to the festival ground? And then Steve DiGiorgio took us to the festival ground, helped building up our gear. I didn't say anything, but well, this was a mind fuck. And
I'm not gonna lie, that would be like I can imagine if I was in that moment, I'd be hungover. I'd be like, am I still hungover, or am I sleeping right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess something normal for everyone, like meeting all of those bands, but I'm still a fan. That's the point. I'm still a fan of all the music I listened to 15, 20 years ago, and well, why not keeping that? I mean, even if you play 100 or 200 shows per album, it doesn't change the fact that you're still a fan of the music, and looking up to people is nothing wrong. The best example I just see here is Trevor from Black Dahlia Murder. He's touring like 200 shows a year. It's unbelievable. And he is listening to everything. Everything. Have you seen his last year's best-of list? He named 100 bands.
You know, it's funny.
I guess 80 of them I've never heard before. So he's a total underground freak. And this is something I really try to keep, like, still being a fan.
Yeah, that's actually quite funny about the Blood Dahlia Murder. I actually got to hang out with the guys at the ABBA show in London. They were supporting ABBA along with Primordial, and just hanging out with the singer, and the singer's talking about going off somewhere and rolling a big fatty.
Wow.
There you go. Just talking about Carcass, because he's got that long Carcass tattoo on his right arm. I'm like, your arm is on the Surgical Remission EP. He's like, I know. So besides Obscura, you're also the drummer for death grind band Dehydrate, as well as the guitarist and vocalist for melodic black death metal band Volcandra. From being in these bands, what could you say you have gained in terms of musicianship and creativity?
Well, I never played in a band called Dehydrated.
I did some research online. I guess there was a wrong resource.
Who knows? But I'm definitely not playing drums in a death grind band. Really sorry about it would be definitely noisy, but
really sorry about that one. I'm a bit embarrassed about that one right there. I did some research last night. I guess someone gave me a bad resource. Someone's gonna pay.
Doesn't matter.
But I know that you're in Volcandra, because I've seen a picture of you in the band. Is this please tell me this is the right resource, otherwise I'm gonna be like, oh, son of a bitch.
No, that's absolutely correct. That's a band we founded in 2003. Yeah, it's actually also. Oh God, I'm getting old. Yeah, it's a band that is completely, holding tribute to this old Swedish black and death metal scene. So I mentioned the early days when we started to make music as a band with Obscura. There was also the influence of like Emperor, Dissection, all of those bands from the mid and early 90s. Mm-hmm. And I love this kind of music the same way as I love tech death, and that's why a couple of friends founded with me Tulkandra back then. And well, we picked it up on a serious way in 2007 or 8, and then we recorded 3 albums in a row.
That's mad.
Well, it's a pleasure to work with those guys, but there's a big difference between the two bands, between Obscura and Tulkandra. Obscura is an absolute priority, no question. I'm making a living out of it since this year, And Tulkandra is a fantastic band with really great friends of mine, but we are naturally kind of limited since 3 of the guys are working full-time, and, well, they're at the max able to do 1 tour a year. So we rather focus on smaller tours and some special shows.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool.
So this in March we're going on tour, like a 10 or 11 day long run with Secrets of the Moon, Dotheim's Guard.
Oh, cool.
And our survival depends on us, and we are hitting London for the first time since 5 years, 6 years.
London, here I come.
Hey, you're very welcome. So
I visit London quite a lot these days, but also to those listening, do not always believe the Metallum, the Metallum online. I think someone on the Metallum put that wrong resource. Someone put you down as being in a band called Dehydrate. I have no idea why, and I'm gonna find. See, that's the thing. I have to use that website to try and find some resources in the promos I review. So but to those listening, I apologize for that one. So let's pretend it never happened, although it is on the record.
Doesn't matter, don't worry.
So guitar-wise, I know that you are still playing your custom ran 7-string. I have always been curious what inspired the shape and the idea for your custom instrument.
That's a good question, and first of all, yes, I'm still sticking to this instrument, but I have 3 of them, and I'm waiting for a 4th one right now. So I have 1 6-string and 2 7-strings, but they're all built a little bit different. I mean, it's still the same shape, but I use different woods, different pickups, different string gauges on some guitars.
Okay.
One of the guitars I'm using with a little bit thinner gauge for recording solos, and the other one has a little thicker gauge just for recording rhythms, because I want to have it as tight as possible.
That's awesome.
And it sounds a little bit different. It's kind of nerdy, but that's what it is. And I'm getting a 4th one, I hope, by this year, and it's another 6-string, but completely new. But the story of the instrument is actually quite easy. When I started to play guitar in 2002, I was always looking for the right guitar. I started with a very cheap Jackson Dinky.
Yeah.
And it was okay, normal beginner guitar, but I was never very happy with it. And then I started to try out different guitars, Ibanez's, BC Ridges, but all of those guitars that look a little bit more interesting, like real metal guitars, they have the problem that the headstock is always falling down. They are not balanced. And back then I always got cramps in my left hand, pushing against over it, and it was simply uncomfortable. So I was looking for a couple of different guitars, different shapes, and I picked up a guitar from a manufacturer from a company called Hondo. It's actually a company from Japan, but I bought it in the United States. Okay. It was a super cheap instrument. It looked very cool, but it sounded like crap. Even when I loaded it with an EMG pickup, there was barely something to rescue there. Yeah. But the cool thing about it was the guitar was completely balanced, and it was very light. I mean, the guitar is pretty long, but at the same time I have a Gibson over here and a ESP Eclipse. The Ran guitar is lighter, it's not that heavy, and you have less problems with the back. And I was very happy with this weird shape, but not the sound, and there were some minor things I wanted to change, and then I was looking up for some custom shops, and I found Jackson, I guess Ibanez haven't had a custom shop back then. I checked out BC Ridge and a couple of other companies, and some friends of mine recommended Ren Guitars from Poland. It's a very small custom company, and they only build like 120 instruments per year. Very small, but only customs, so they don't have regular guitars. So what I did is simply taking the crap guitar, writing down all of the specs I wanted to have, so sent the whole thing to Poland, and 6-7 months later I got the guitar I'm still playing. This is actually the one I played at the Death DTA tours.
Oh, I remember. I mean, honestly, when I first saw that's actually another thing. I actually first found out about you and Obscura through Ran Guitars, because I remember years back I was looking through, because I remember because Peter from Vader uses Ran, and I was looking around to see if I could find his model, which I did, and I found this view gallery, and I saw this really interesting looking guitar that looked like an Explorer that had been sold to Satan. And that's how I actually refer to your guitar. It looks like an Explorer to me that's been sold to Satan and then demonized.
I'm not sure. I guess a couple of companies picked up pieces of this shape, but the original name was Hondo H1. If you Google that, there are a couple of very interesting pictures. Somebody even built a headless guitar with this shape, and it's the most bizarre, ugly thing you will see all day, I can tell you. Oh
god. But I remember seeing it, and I remember thinking it looked very interesting, because it was a different shape, but I can believe that would be a light guitar, because whenever you see a guitar like that, you think to yourself, that's going to be a nice weight, you know, and honestly, it's a very fascinating guitar, and looking at it on stage, it looks like a badass guitar to play as well, because it's got a very full shape to it.
Well, I'm super happy with the guitar and with the shape, and I will stick to that. I'm pretty loyal to the companies I'm working with. With Ren, I'm working since 2003, and the same goes with Engel with the amps. We're cooperating since 2008, and I stick to that. This is my sound. I'm happy with it. I'm not the guy who needs 20 or 30 guitars at home. I'm happy when I have one that is working, and that's fine on stage as well as in the studio, and that's pretty easy. I'm not one of those guitar collectors.
That's well, honestly, the guitar works for you in a lot of ways, and I think it really I mean, if your iconic guitar, really, I mean, even in the latest music video, you can see the guitar. It's basically a part of the whole idea, isn't it? It's the Obscura guitar. Fantastic guitar, that.
Well, it's a custom shape instrument, and yeah, since I played since the very beginning, I would say it's part of the idea, so to say. But everybody has to choose the guitar he likes, and that's easy. I just have a guitar that looks a little bit different, but
there you go. So the final question for this interview really is for the fans listening at home. What can they expect from Akroasis, and what can they expect for the future of Obscura?
Well, if you're listening to Akroasis, take your time listening properly to the album, and we try to make it more interesting and especially more diverse in terms of songwriting, in terms of tempos. And if you're not only listening to one song, take the time, listen to the whole album as a whole. Like we put a lot of effort into the track list, into all songs flowing into each other. So it's like a one big piece, one big picture with artworks, with all the lyrics, everything together. So that would be something I could recommend. But on the other hand, if you're a shredder on guitar, I think there's a lot of interesting new stuff happening. If you're a bassist, you find something. If you just want to have a beer and listen to good death metal, listen to Akroasis. That's a good bottom line. And
I'm wondering, will there also be a tablature book for this, like with previous, or will that take some time?
The tablature book is in print right now and will be delivered with all pre-orders next week.
Yes.
We're doing that, but we are also working finally on a bass tablature book and a drum book, since a couple of people asked for that. And
that's awesome.
We are going to release that probably in 1 or 2 months, but we will announce that within the next weeks. So the first thing we're focusing on is the release date, sending out all of the pre-orders, and well, then going on tour with Death DTA, playing a couple of festivals, and well, we already share ideas for the next album.
That's incredible. Well, Steffen, it's been an absolute pleasure, and honestly, this has been an incredible interview, even if there were a few skips around the whole thing. Damn you, Metallum.
Don't worry.
But still,
we cleared that, so
but still,
at least it's clear that I'm not playing drums in a grind band.
there you go. So for those who've done their research about Steffen on Metallum, now you know that there have been a few screw-ups. But still, thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the future.
It would be a pleasure to play again in the UK, and I'm very sure we are coming back by the end of the year, so keep an eye on our tour dates, and see you then on tour listening to Akroasis, and, well, that's it.
Well, this has been Michael J. Coyle of Metal Temple. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned.